Pelicans front office is failing to build around Zion Williamson, and I'm worried that they may go down the same path that they went with Anthony Davis. Let's talk about how. So, first of all, I'm not saying that there is no hope for this team. Obviously, they still have a very bright future. I'm just concerned with some of the recent moves that they've made, and it reminds me a little bit too much of the Anthony Davis situation and how they mismanaged that generational talent. And just last year at this time, I thought the Pelicans had possibly the brightest future in the league, as they obviously had Zion. They also had Brandon Ingram, who ended up taking a massive leap last year. They had Lonzo Ball, they have Josh Hart, Nickeil Alexander-Walker, Jackson Hayes, and some future draft picks, and really they're just in an ideal situation going into a future rebuild at this time last year. However, over the last year, and specifically really the last month, they've made some pretty questionable decisions. I will say though, one decision they made that I really like is giving Brandon Ingram a max extension. If you're going to have serious championship hopes in the future, you need him to be that solidified second option, and he has to be paid as such. He definitely has the potential to be the second best option on a championship team. As I said before, he took a massive leap last year, winning the NBA's Most Improved Player award, taking a big step in terms of confidence, and really just improving his overall game and his shot. So in this offseason, I think it was pretty obvious that the Pelicans had to keep him, and in order to keep him, they were going to have to pay him a max, which they did, so good job for that. And I also think Zion and Brandon Ingram fit better together than a lot of people give them credit for. In a lot of people's minds, the only player that could be a fitting co-star for Zion is a perimeter player who can shoot and play make, say someone like a Damian Lillard, Stephen Curry, or Kyrie Irving. But there's more than just one specific mold of player that can fit with Zion, and I think the trio of Lonzo, Brandon Ingram, and Zion fits together really well. Specifically looking at just Ingram and Williamson at first, I really think they could be a great perimeter and inside duo together, considering that Brandon Ingram is a great shot creator and he has improved his shooting over recent years, so it's not like he's a liability in that end by any means. He's a great shot creator, and he's going to open the floor up for Zion, as well as open up new opportunities and just provide scoring when the defense is focusing on Zion too much. And then obviously Zion is a dominant inside player, and I'm not going to say they will be anywhere near as good. Obviously that's a ridiculous statement. Do not say I'm directly comparing them, but the style of play of this duo reminds me of Shaq and Kobe. Specifically the style of play. I am not saying that they are on that level of talent. Do not mix that up. And I say that because neither Shaq or Kobe was a playmaker like a lot of people want Zion's co-star to be. Obviously, there was the meme about Kobe not passing, even though he was a bit of an underrated playmaker. It still was not his main strong suit, as he was just a pure scorer and shot creator on the perimeter and working into the paint. And Shaq, similar to Zion, again, in terms of style of play, is just a pure inside dominant scorer. And you're thinking, well, if neither of them really creates and they're not the same level of talent as Shaq and Kobe, how is it going to work? That's because they are both great scoring talents, and then they have that third piece in Lonzo Ball, who is going to set both of them up. They're going to have a great transition game, and Lonzo will be able to find Ingram on the wing, set him up on backdoor cuts, whatever else. Then obviously there's the lob threat from Lonzo to Zion, and Lonzo will just find a way to get them in a position to score. And that actually takes me into my first issue with this Pelicans offseason. They seem to be moving away from Lonzo Ball as their future point guard, or at least they're not as certain about it as they were, say, a year ago. And I say that because, as most of you know, they did bring in Eric Bledsoe in a trade in this offseason. And I do think that was a good trade. The upside of those Milwaukee picks is tremendous for this team, but I really think Eric Bledsoe should have been flipped to a third team, as he just does not fit on this team whatsoever. He is not a shooter, which is what you want to surround Zion and Ingram with. He is a solid playmaker, but he's nowhere near Lonzo's level in that department, and most of all, he just doesn't fit the timeline. And those of you who watched my video about OKC, which by the way, if you haven't, you should check that out. Those of you who who watched it might call me a hypocrite in this regard because I was very adamant about keeping Ricky Rubio and Kelly Oubre for the Thunder in that video. But the difference is that Ricky Rubio and Kelly Oubre were going to enhance your young core and help develop them. Eric Bledsoe is restricting Lonzo Ball, and he doesn't fit with the team at all, so he's not helping to develop the young talent, which is the reason that I wanted them to keep Rubio and Oubre. So I hope Eric Bledsoe gets traded throughout the season, because there is no reason for him to be on this team if you believe Lonzo Ball is the future of your team, which I believe he is the future point guard of that organization. As like I was saying, he fits so well with Zion and Ingram, and you may have some concerns about the shooting in that regard, but Lonzo has improved his shooting throughout the years in the NBA, and obviously we saw his potential to be a decent shooter in college and at Chino Hills. Zion showed a little bit of an ability to space the floor at Duke. It wasn't consistent, but he was at least willing to take them, and he did make them occasionally. And he also had that debut game where he went like 5 for 5 from 3 or something like that in the fourth quarter. So neither of them is a great shooter, but they have the potential to be capable shooters. And then Brandon Ingram is at least a solid shooter right now. He needs to work on his off-ball game a bit, as he's more of a create-your-own-shot type of guy, but he can play within that team and be a shooting option. And then you want to surround those three with other shooters on the floor, and that leads me to a veteran presence on this team that I love in JJ Redick, and I'm partially biased in saying that because of the Duke connection with JJ, Zion, and Brandon Ingram, but Redick really does fit the sort of player that the Pelicans need at that two-guard position, and he's been in the league for 15 years, I think, and he's made the playoffs every single year except for this past season, so he has playoff experience and he's going to be able to help develop the young guys on this team. And then you also have Josh Hart from the Anthony Davis trade, who I could see in a sort of six-man role to come off the bench and knock down shots when you need him to, but you still would need another shooter on the floor with Lonzo, Brandon Ingram, and Zion Williamson. And that leads me into the other main issue of this Pelicans offseason. And while I understand the Bledsoe trade, at least what they were thinking with it, I have no clue what they were thinking with the Steven Adams piece. Adams is literally the exact opposite of what you want at center on a team with Zion. Obviously can't space the floor. He's not modern in any sense. He can't guard multiple positions. Again, he doesn't space the floor. He's not really a playmaker. He's the most traditional center that we have in the NBA right now. It's like him and Clint Capella. And that type of center just straight up does not belong on this team whatsoever. And on top of everything else, they extended him. Like, it was a bad move in the first place, and now you're throwing him $35 million on top of that. Just that move baffles me. And once again, Adams is going to be taking minutes away from a young player in Jackson Hayes, and I just don't think that's a good idea because Hayes really was a piece of the LA trade. If you think about it, he was the 9th pick. I think he was technically selected by Atlanta at the 9th pick, but that was part of a trade that got Atlanta the 4th pick from the Pelicans, and that 4th pick came from the Lakers. So you're now wasting 2 assets from your superstar trade, and that just makes no sense to me. And for older guys who don't fit the team at all and are being overpaid. The center that I want them to go for, I know I'm gonna sound like kind of a homer here, it's Miles Turner. And I brought him up in my Celtics video a lot, and I just really love how he fits in the modern league, especially if you get the right pieces around him. The only thing about him that doesn't fit great in the modern league is a lack of defensive versatility, but he has everything else. He's a great rim protector. He can stretch the floor. He can score inside if you can feed him. I just love the Miles Turner fit on this team, and I think if they could go for him, I'm not sure exactly what they would give up. I doubt Indiana wants Steven Adams as they're trying to get rid of a center right now. Maybe they would take Eric Bledsoe, but again, there's a bit of a logjam at that position as well, as they have Malcolm Brogdon and Aaron Holiday and Victor Oladipo and Jeremy Lamb at the guard positions. But I know Miles Turner is on the trading block, so I would try to figure out a way to get him if I were the Pelicans. Apparently they think Steven Adams is their center of the future. I don't know, man. So I do understand the push to win now. It's something that I am a proponent of, not tanking and trying to win now when you find your piece like Zion or Brandon Ingram, but not at the cost of developing your young players, as that is the ultimate goal of trying to win now is to get more experience and development for the key players that you want to be going into your future. And when you have Eric Bledsoe and Steven Adams, who are two terrible overpaid fits, they're taking minutes away from two of your key players going into the future in Lonzo Ball and in Jackson Hayes. And on top of bringing in Bledsoe in terms of taking minutes away from Lonzo, they also decided to use their 16th pick on another point guard, Kira Lewis from Alabama. I don't think that's a bad pick if they don't get Eric Bledsoe, but the fact that they did take Eric Bledsoe, they still have Lonzo and they still have Alexander Walker. They now have 4 point guards who really should be getting minutes on that team. I don't see how they're going to make that work. The Pelicans obviously still have a very bright future with the pieces that they have in Zion, Brandon Ingram, Lonzo, Josh Hart, Jackson Hayes, and the list goes on. But their front office is making some very questionable moves, bringing in older, overpaid players who don't really fit the team. And it leads me to question what they're really trying to do here. And if they don't think this through, they could end up wasting yet another generational talent after trading away Chris Paul and Anthony Davis since their franchise came into existence. So yeah, I hope they figure things out. Being a Duke fan, I really want to see this team succeed, and I really hope Zion gets good pieces around him so that he doesn't waste the first decade of his career like Anthony Davis did. And yeah, that's pretty much it. If you like this video, give it a like. Subscribe to the channel and turn notifications on. That is all for this video, and I will see you next time.